You're listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis, the only podcast focused on the biohealth capital region. Each episode, we'll talk to leaders in the industry to break down the biggest topics happening today in biohealth.
Hi, this is Rich Bendis. I'm your host for BioTalk, where we interview leaders within the biohealth capital region with diverse personalities and backgrounds and companies that they represent. And today, we have the pleasure of having Dr. Srujana Cherukuri, who is the CEO of Noble Life Sciences, who is joining us on BioTalk. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Rich. It's a pleasure to be here.
And we've been looking forward to this interview with you for a long time because your chairman of Noble Life Sciences, Ken Carter, is on the board of BioHealth Innovation and has watched us evolve over the last 8 years. And so when I invited him, he delegated this responsibility to you and you accepted it willingly, right?
Yeah.
When the chairman speaks, you have no choice, right?
I have no choice. That's right.
So we will do the best to talk very nicely about him then. I think the listeners would love to learn about your background first. And let's talk about history, education, where you grew up, how you transitioned into the United States, your career in the U.S., and how you landed into Noble Life Sciences.
Yeah, sure. So as a child, I have a passion for science. From my childhood onwards, I developed this passion for biology. And all my education is in India up until master's. I did master's in biochemistry in India. And then after that, I really wanted to go into higher education. So I was looking for different opportunities to actually continue my education to a Ph.D. level. And at that time, I thought coming to the US will be a great experience for me to actually experience the science, how it happens here. So I applied and I got admission into Cleveland State University and Cleveland Clinic Foundation. So I came to United States in 2000 to do my graduate degree. So I did my PhD in Cleveland State University, and all the research work is being done in Cleveland Clinic Foundation. And after that, I took a regular academic path where I moved to NIH in Bethesda to do my postdoctoral work. And after completing the postdoctoral work, I continued in the academic path and then moved to the University of Maryland School of Medicine as a junior faculty. However, from the beginning, I always wanted to combine my science with the entrepreneurship. I have the passion not only for the science as well as the entrepreneurship. And during my PhD, I started at the same time working in the research lab. At the same time, I was exploring how to really get some insights into the entrepreneurship because I do want to run a biotech company since my PhD days onwards. But I was just, waiting for the right experience, right time, because I do want to get a really good experience in the science field itself. And then I was just looking and reading about entrepreneurship. And then while I was at NIH and CI, while doing my postdoctoral work, I happened to take some of the courses at FAES, technology transfer and business development, as a side projects. And then close to the end of my postdoctoral fellowship, I happened to join into a Carey Business School for a 1-year management course in the life science management. So I got a diploma in life science management, and then I continued to move into the academic path. Just at that same time, I got married and got kids. It's just the managing work-life balance. So I was looking for the right time to take that move. And then at the University of Maryland, while I was into 3 years there, I thought it's time for me to make that big move. And one fine morning, I just quit my job there and happened to attend one of the networking sessions because until then I was more like a scientist, lab research. I have no network. So I thought it's a time for me to expand my network. And I happened to attend to BioBuzz. That's my first networking session. And that's the life-changing session, I would say. In that BioBuzz networking session, I met this wonderful lady, Jana Spitz, who was at the time Maryland Economic Development Center. And we were talking about my passion about science and entrepreneurship. And then she said, you know what, let me introduce you to Ken Carter. So she introduced me to Ken Carter. And then that's the life-changing thing for me. I just met Ken and then had a couple of talks with him, and I thought this is the right time for me. So I said, can I come and work with Noble to get some business experience? Between Ken, Alan, they really, supported me. And then it's kind of an informal mentorship. I learned a lot and then continued with Noble. But at the same time, between my jobs between University of Maryland and then moving to Noble, I also did another management program. It's called Activate.
Yeah, sure.
It's more like to help with the new budding entrepreneurs with the business plans and then kind of get into more connections with different folks. So I think that program is also a really helpful program for me to expand my network and then to really see what the business looks like while I'm hands-on getting the experience at Noble to learn more on the business side of it while still enjoying the science experience. So at Noble, I started as an intern and then continued to...
What year was that?
2013.
2013, an intern, okay.
2013 as an intern, and then after 3 months, moved as a senior scientist and then try to see where the gaps are, try to work through them, and then mostly focused on developing the new animal models because throughout my research career, I worked with the mouse models in various aspects of the science, working with the embryonic stem cells or human adult stem cells. I have gained a lot of experience in the mouse models, so it's a right fit, I thought, and then really involved in developing more models so that we can offer as a services. And then I just continued there, stayed forever so far.
Well, you've been there over 5 years now.
Over 5 years.
And you started as an intern, and now you've become president.
Yeah, CEO.
CEO. Yeah. Well, yeah, basically that's even better than president, right? Yeah. So, it's a career path that most people would love to have. And so congratulations on your path in a short period of time. But I'm going to let you take a breath because that was a big mouthful to get us all the way through to where we are today. And you mentioned a couple names that are very familiar to me. When BioHealth Innovation was getting created, we were working with the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, and Janice Pitts was working with them at that time. And she actually introduced me to 90 people in 55 organizations over a 6-month period so I could get the landscape. So she knew everybody in this ecosystem. And unfortunately, she's passed away. But she really is a good memory for me as well as for you. And that's probably how I met Ken Carter as well, because she knew everybody and I was being introduced to a lot of different people in the region, and Ken was one of those people I met. So we have a similar background and introduction into this region. And then when you talk about your research background transitioning into entrepreneurship, very interesting transition. Talk a little bit about the type of research you did at NCI, at the University of Maryland, and whether or not that is beneficial today in what you're doing with Noble Life Sciences.
Yeah, definitely. It's very much beneficial because, all the research I did is very diverse research. Because in my Ph.D. days, I'm mostly working on the biochemistry side of the iron homeostasis and red blood cell production. That's a completely different. And then when I was moving into the postdoctoral position, I wanted to get into the oncology side and more molecular biology side because I do want to gain research scientific diverse expertise just because I want to learn as much as I could during my research career, and then I could apply that to the business when I get a chance to do that. So in my postdoc position, I was more looking at the molecular biology with respect to the cancer. At the same time, I was also working with mouse embryonic stem cells. So I have done a lot of primary cell cultures and done with transgenic mouse models. And then at University of Maryland, it's more like adult hematopoietic stem cells. Again, a lot of gene expression and then high throughput screening, primary cell culture. So I think all that research experience I gained give a lot of insights into various areas of the science and gain the ability to understand the science, not only in one specific field, but more diverse scientific fields. And at Noble, pretty much, we do a lot of drug development in various areas, including oncology, infectious diseases, and other things. So I got that aptitude throughout my diverse scientific expertise. So when I talk to my sponsors, I have that easily be able to grasp what their objective is. So I think which in turn will help me really help me help them to take their drugs into the right model systems.
Very interesting, but a lot of people have difficulty transitioning from science into business. And we run into that all the time when we're trying to work with scientists who say they have a business plan or a product that's market ready, but they really don't understand anything about the business. They understand the science. So as you were doing all your research and going through your scientific background, who influenced you the most to think about being an entrepreneur or going into the business side of science? Was it somebody in your family or somebody you observed in the region or in your life that helped influence you to go into the business?
That's a loaded question. There is no one single influencer, I would say, because in my family, my parents are farmers and it's in a small village. But my parents gave me a lot of support in terms of whatever the direction I want to go, especially, supporting me to go into the higher education. So just that observing my surroundings and thinking through what I wanted to do. And obviously, I always wanted to aim for big and dream big and then try to achieve those dreams. And then as I paving my path towards the direction I wanted to go, I just look around and then see where the opportunities are and who are the people who I can learn from, and then reach out to them and formally or informally, and then try to learn whatever I could learn from each one of those. And I think since I came to Maryland, it's been, I think, close to 14 years probably, right? 2005, I came to Maryland.
Right, yeah, 14 years.
Yeah, so, and especially last 3-4 years, I met so many people, and each person I meet, I always learn something or the other. So with respect to transition, I think it's just having that passion towards the science as well as the entrepreneurship and be able to, learn things very fast and be able to reach out to people when I needed to know the information. I think that just helped me to transition very smoothly.
Yeah, I think it's been a very good transition, but I think you answered the question about influence early in your answer, and that is, a lot of people ask me how I got into entrepreneurship, and I said, well, my mother and father owned a mom and pop grocery store, but I never looked at them as entrepreneurs. They were small business owners, but actually they were an entrepreneur back in those days, many, many, many years ago. And when you said your parents were farmers, talk about true entrepreneurs that never could predict revenue from cycle to cycle and the growing seasons and weather and all of those influencers, but being able to raise a family and yourself as an entrepreneurial farmer in a small village in India, they had to be extremely entrepreneurial.
Yeah, they're very hardworking, and that's where probably I learned how to work hard and smart and get what I wanted to
And that's
get.
where you got your work ethic.
Exactly.
And so then you transitioned as an intern into Noble Life Sciences and actually ended up becoming the CEO. So a lot of people out here may have heard the name Noble. It's been around for quite a while, but probably don't know what it does. So would you please give us an introduction into Noble Life Sciences?
Sure. Yeah, so Noble is about a 9-year-old company. It was founded in 2010 by Ken Carter, Alan Capelluti, Steve Horrigan, Jeff, and another Steve Garvey. So Ken and Alan are serial entrepreneurs, so they have been working in this drug industry for so long time. And then in 2010, they really wanted to put together a business model where you have this infrastructure which will be able to provide all the required services or development of drug development capabilities to the spin-offs or startup companies. So pretty much Noble Life Sciences is a preclinical CRO, provides all the drug testing services in various areas like oncology, infectious diseases, using various animal models.
Okay, so you mentioned that Ken and Alan were serial entrepreneurs. And do you believe that they formed Noble because of the deficiencies they found while they were going through the entrepreneurial careers they had in trying to start up early stage life science and biotech companies?
Yeah, I happened to hear from Ken that in his tenure with the other companies, he did come up with some difficulties with respect to once they reach to a certain stage, there is sort of dependency or get influence controlled by other entities because of the funding issues or who will be funding that company. There is a less independence in terms of how you want to run your company. I think that led them to think through the process and then wanted to establish an entity where it's not really controlled by the investing funding agencies, rather controlled by the founders of the company.
And it's a very competitive industry when you look at clinical research organizations. There's lots of large companies, billion-dollar companies that have lots of resources. And what you have with Noble was a small, niche-oriented company. And so what do you think differentiates what Noble does versus some of the other companies that you compete with?
So definitely it's the scientific expertise of the team that are in Noble, both scientific and technical expertise, and the flexibility. We do understand the needs of the small to mid-sized companies, and in terms of how much we can be flexible in order to fit their needs, but at the same time be able to take their development process at the faster rate that they wanted to do. And it's not only the flexibility in terms of the time, but also the budget, but at the same time still be able to stick to the quality standards that we can follow.
And then you mentioned you do a lot of work with some early stage companies, right? A lot of them don't have capital. So how do you help bridge that challenge where you have an early stage company, needs your services, may not be able to afford everything right up front, but yet you still need to make a profit? And that's the challenge of the CEO, isn't it?
Yeah, that is really a big challenge, especially for Noble, because we are also a growing company and we are not backed up by big investors. As you said, we do need to compete with this large CRO companies, still be able to survive in that competition. But at the same time, we do all really value the startup companies, the value they are bringing into the new drug pipeline, right? So one way we do is that to support in their grant funding, we work with our startup companies on their SBIR grants, STTR grants, and any government-funded grants where we provide the budgets and we provide the support letters and give all the regulatory documents needed to release their funds. We don't charge them for anything. We give a lot of scientific input, whatever they needed, but at the same time, we spend all this time to create the budgets, to create the support letters, and also create all the animal protocols. So that's all, it's free of cost, pretty much, and we don't charge them. On the other hand, if there is any key experiments that really important for them, for their either to be used as a data on the grant application or as an investor meeting, we work with them and then we do the studies at cost where we are not taking any of the overhead cost for our facility.
I guess you have the flexibility to do that as a small and nimble organization.
Exactly.
Where large organizations have the fixed overhead, which is much greater, and might not be able to go down as far into the early stage side of things. And so you mentioned your preclinical. So tell me the difference. How far do you go in the definition of preclinical? And when is it that a company gets to a stage where it's clinical? And how do you segue a company from the preclinical stage to the clinical stage, which is not something that you really support?
So preclinical is basically anything before human, to put it that way. And then clinical is any drug that is going into the clinical trials, right? So Noble, our core expertise or capabilities are in the preclinical space, especially anywhere from the discovery phase of work to all the way IND-enabling studies. So to elaborate on that, we have any candidate drug, and it needs to undergo several preclinical testings to make sure that the drug is efficacious for any of the indication that we are testing the drug for. And then we need to know PK/PD of pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics of that drug characteristics. And at the same time, we also need to make sure that the drug is safe and has minimum to no toxicity. And all this is done, using the discovery studies, anything from the lab assays to using the animal models, various appropriate animal models. And Noble works with various small to large animal models to support whether it's a small molecule drug or biologic, vaccine, cell, and gene therapy. So we have expertise with a wide variety of therapeutics, right? And then we work with the discovery phase work to obtain that proof of concept data or the validating any of the university-derived projects to validate the technology. toxicology. And then we can go further beyond where testing the efficacy of the drug. And at the same time, we can do more robust regulated studies called the GLP safety toxicology studies. So pretty much any company, if they have any drug in the developmental phase, they need all this preclinical data for them to file to the FDA to get approved to the clinical stage. So we are all before the complete capabilities for the preclinical supporting the work. So we do all the before human and non-human work.
Good. Very good explanation for people to understand. And I'm talking with Srujana Cherukuri, who is the CEO of Noble Life Sciences, and learning more about the clinical research industry as well as Noble Life Sciences capabilities. Now, you mentioned that you've consolidated your operations in Sykesville, Maryland at this particular point in time. How did you end up in Sykesville? And tell us a little bit about your physical facilities and what you have up in Sykesville.
Sure. Yeah, this again goes back to telling a little more history about Noble. So Noble, when it's founded, it's actually located in Gaithersburg on the First Field Road. And at that time, the majority of the work is more on the oncology and infectious diseases and with small animals. We don't have the GLP capabilities. And around 2014, we were thinking of expanding the capabilities because the clients whom we are working with, they're actually looking for the GLP safety toxicology studies and large animal models. And we were debating on whether we establish those capabilities in-house or acquire a company that already has those capabilities. And at that time, there is another local CRO by name Spring Valley Laboratories, which actually has founded in 1980s, has a long history in the CRO space. So they were looking to sell their company. And at Spring Valley Labs, they have all the GLP capabilities as well as the large animal models. And they also do a lot of medical device work. And we thought at that time, given that our oncology and infectious disease expertise with the small animals, combining the GLP capabilities, large animals devices, that's a great fit for Noble as a complementary and expands our offerings. And, we can grow in the right direction as a business. So then we decided to acquire Spring Valley Labs, which was located at Sykesville. And we ran both the companies about 1 year separately, Noble in Gaithersburg, and we kept Spring Valley as Spring Valley at Sykesville. But then it's two small companies. It didn't make sense business-wise, right? So two small companies running in two different locations within like 30 miles radius. So it's business-wise, it doesn't make sense. So we thought to make it more efficient operationally, we decided to consolidate. And during that consolidation process, obviously the facility size in Gaithersburg is very small and is not compatible for the large animals, the type of work that we were planning to do. And at Sykesville, it's more like a farmland and really out in the village. So it's village and then more capable of handling the device work and also the large animals. So we thought, it's more room there. So we thought it's better to be in the Sykesville so that we can expand our business, both the facilities wise and the, as such, the operations wise. So we decided to move there and then consolidated the operations in Sykesville.
That's quite a transition to go from Gaithersburg to Sykesville.
It is.
For you and everybody.
Yeah.
And so how is it for your employees that you have? How is it for recruiting the types of specialized people you need in a CRO business? And where are they from geographically to come to work in Sykesville?
Yeah, so luckily, all our Gaithersburg employees stayed with us. Right. At the same time, all the Sykesville employees stayed with us. So we were lucky in that sense where we did not lose any of our technical staff. And then when we consolidated, they all moved with us. And they all come from very long distances. Like some come from all the way from Silver Spring, Frederick, and some from Prince George County. They are spread out all the way. And the beauty is that because we are not really say I-270 or 495, all the roads are back roads. So it's easy to commute with a very scenic, beautiful drive. So they all come from all over the place.
So that's one of the selling points for coming to work for Noble.
Exactly. And we do a lot of flexibility in terms of as long as, work done, it's to you.
So people can telecommute and at times?
Telecommute is a little tricky, especially for the technical staff, because technical staff is more like essential employees. And given the science, the nature of the work, the study directors and technical staff need to be there. But in terms of the flexibility means it's not like how to be there during 7 to 4, the business hours. As long as we could able to deliver what we need to deliver, we can adjust the times here and there.
Gotcha. So now that you're located in Sykesville, let's talk a little bit about your customer base. Where are they located and what would be the profile of a typical customer?
So our customers are everywhere again. We do serve to local customers. We have a lot of local customers as well as national, and we do have global customers. So we have international customers too. And our clients are typically pharma, biotech companies, but we also have few clients from the research institutes like NIH and FDA research side of it and other universities. And we work with startups and early stage companies. That's our sweet spot, given our flexibility. And we do work with large companies and mid-sized companies as well.
So you basically can service anybody.
Anybody who
Anywhere in the world.
Who has any drug that is in the developmental pipeline, especially in the preclinical pipeline.
You mentioned that the history of the company is in Maryland, and Maryland has a good history in the pharma and the biotechnology and the life science world. How is, we call it the biohealth capital region, good for Noble Life Sciences and what your future growth plans are?
Yeah, I think this is a great place to be, given that you have all the major government agencies as well as the research institutes. We have FDA, that's where all our drug applications goes to for IND filing. And we have NIH, which is a really great research organization and funding agency, obviously. And between Johns Hopkins or University of Maryland, I think you have a lot of talent here, both scientific expertise and with all the things that are going on in the startups, with all the spin-offs that is happening for the past few years. I think there is a lot of dynamic nature of the business going here. That's scientific expertise, business expertise, and as well as the talent acquisition. We try to hire people in the local area because there is a lot of talent in the universities and research institutes. I think this is a great area to be, and even for Noble, with working closely with the local companies, as well as have access to the reviewers if we need to set up any pre-IND meetings, help with our sponsors, and as well as the other thing is that access to any core facility in this area, like whether it's University of Maryland core facility or Johns Hopkins core facility, because some of the capabilities that we don't have in-house and doesn't make sense to bring in those capabilities just because of the volume of the work, but we actively collaborate with the core facilities here and then be able to complete the work what needed to be done for our sponsors to make their project successful.
Great answer. So you are here and you plan to stay.
We plan to stay.
Grow here.
And grow here. That's right. Yeah.
And then we have the big BioHealth Capital Region Forum coming up in 2 weeks over at AstraZeneca now.
Yep.
As you know, the MedImmune brand is gone and has been absorbed by AstraZeneca. So I know you'll be attending that as well.
I have been attending all these years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a good lead generator for you?
It is, actually. It is. And I think we have been sponsoring the
Yes, you're sponsoring. Thank you very much for your sponsorship.
Yeah. I think, both in terms of the sessions that you host in those meetings, those are the great sessions and panels, good panels and good crowd, I would say. You have a lot of crowd, and we did generate a couple of leads from there. And, we kept those sponsors. Whatever the leads that we generated, they kept working with us. The good thing is once you experience Noble, you tend to stay with Noble.
So actually, you have to be very selective as an emerging company as to what things you do sponsor and what you don't. So We're glad that you have found it beneficial and something that you continue to do year after year. So thank you for that. Now, since I'm working with biohealth innovation, the question would be, is there anything that BHI can do to help Noble Life Sciences in its growth within this region?
Yeah, as you mentioned in the beginning, not everybody knows Noble, that we exist. Noble here and then, provides all the preclinical services. Pretty much goal is there is a lot of startup companies. Virtual companies are very limited lab capabilities, right? They need to outsource all their developmental work. And knowing that Noble is here and be able to do from the discovery to all the way IND enabling studies, we have the infrastructure and we continue to develop further the infrastructure and quality standards. Just making the community aware of the Noble, presence of the Noble here, and then be able to get more and more leads from this area, be able to work with growing companies and startups, we want to grow the local clientele.
It's much more efficient in your own backyard too.
Exactly. Yeah, it's you just can drive to us.
Yeah, right.
Right? Yeah.
Right. Just like driving to NIH or FDA, you can drive to Noble.
Drive to Noble, and then you can see what exactly going on with your studies.
So basically, we're helping you today by letting you appear on BioTalk, which will go out in our newsletter next Tuesday, we hope, and give some exposure to Noble to people that don't know about you.
Very excited, and looking forward to get to work more and more local companies.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, any closing comments you would have about things we haven't discussed that you'd like to let the listeners know about?
Obviously, we want to become more and more robust preclinical service provider, and especially with the startup companies or the small companies, if we have any budget constraints or need to really try out our services to get experience with Noble, feel free to reach out to us, and then I would love to engage in your conversations and then see how Noble can help to move forward your program.
So we've been talking with Dr. Srujana Cherukuri, the CEO of Noble Life Sciences. And if people want to learn about Noble, do you have a website they can go to?
Yeah, it's noblelifesci.com. NOBLELIFESCI.com.
Very good. I want to thank you very much for appearing on BioTalk today.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, and we look forward to seeing you in the forum on April 8th and 9th.
Yep.
So good luck to you in your growth in the region.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis.